painter or a producer, you're still a professional and you still have a business. Very important that I want to share here right now. You do not need to have a registered company or closed corporation or entity to be seen as a business. You are a business even if you're a sole proprietor. And it's not something that doesn't happen often. If I look even in the accounting space, majority of our members are sole proprietors. They don't register a business. So I want to touch here on the compliance question that you've had. If you register a business, you can do it, but now you've got compliance issues. And not issues, but it takes time and money and effort. So you have to pay your annual return every year with the CIPC. You have to lodge annual returns. You have to comply with the Companies Act, because now you've registered a company. What is the benefit of registering a business if you're the only person providing services? It's not benefit. What is your opinion?
So that if the company gets sued, it doesn't fall in your personal capacity, so they can just sue the company by itself. And also because a company is a body on its own, it needs to have its own tax, it needs to have its own bank account, so that makes it separate from you.
That's separating the business expenses. With the liability issue that she brought up about being sued, that is only applicable if you register an incorporated business. If you register a PTY business, you can still be sued. Because New Companies Act, directors can be held personally liable for things going wrong in that business. So if you want to protect yourself from a public liability point of view, you have to register the right type of company. It needs to be an incorporated. I'm going to be with you now. But what I would still advise, trade as a sole proprietor, take out public liability insurance. It's not expensive. I think you pay 47 Rand for 20 million Rand cover. Yeah? So, what is the process of registering a sole proprietor? No process. You don't need to register anywhere. What I want to tell you though is, even though you're a sole proprietor, I will still separate my personal income and my business income from each other. Now you're going to ask me, but how do I do it? Because I don't have a company. Open a separate bank account. So you've got your F&B bank account, that's where your rent is going out, your bond is going out, school fees are going out. You've got a Capitec bank account. Capitec is where you invoice your clients from, your clients pay into Capitec. Any expenses business related, you need to Uber to a client, goes off the Capitec. You need to buy art supplies, goes off the Capitec. End of the month, you pay yourself a salary from the Capitec account to your F&B account. So you keep your business and personal expenses and income separate. Yes.
Just a quick one to answer the question on why you register a business, even as a sole proprietor. I think it just comes to a sense of full disclosure and transparency, and also coming in to solve problems, coming with solutions, and also on the compliance notes, just to be everything in full disclosure and transparency. I think that's why a person would register a business or a company, and also to be able to get the benefits or the advantages is to be assisted either via funding, potential investments, and also the tax and legal stuff. That's why a person would register a business. That's my opinion, I think.
Absolutely. There's definitely pros and cons to both. I would recommend if you start out your business, not to start out by registering a company. The compliance burden is too big. You are getting on your feet, now you need to worry about a tax return for your company and a tax return for yourself. You need to worry about an annual return to the CIPC for your company and an annual return for yourself. You need to have a POPIA compliance manual, because companies in South Africa have to have them. If you're a sole proprietor, you don't have that. As soon as your business grows and develops, you've got more funding available, and you can have accountants and professionals assist you in the compliance matters, then I would consider going PTY, registering a company. Definitely once you have employees. If your business grows and you start bringing people people into the business, I would definitely go PTY corporate route.
I think I really agree with, just the progression of finding the right time to open the business. But now, as a sole proprietor, don't I have limited capacity or power when it comes to getting funding? Because a lot of these funding people will want a registration, a CIP registered company. Also, banks, just without having that, registered company becomes difficult. So if you can advise if there are ways to circumvent that, can we use our power to say, I'm a sole proprietor that works alone and therefore I still qualify for funding from government? Why do I need to, put all these things when I'm still at such a small capacity? Is there power or a solution?
I believe there's power. It obviously still also depends on the people that provide the grant and the funding. So there is some organizations that say you can only apply for the funding in the capacity of a corporate entity. So you need to be to limited or you need the Inc. But I still believe you've got the power to get the funding. I can speak to you specifically from a bank and a financial loan point of view. The bank will just look at you, you just say, I'm a sole proprietor. This is my income, you've got my bank statement to support it. This is my expenses, you've got my bank statement to support it. And as a sole proprietor, you're still going to manage your finances. Remember I said you've got your Capitec account that brings your business money in? You're going to say, this month I had 15 invoices, this was the value, this came into Capitec. It's also going to help you to track who owes you money. And then I'm going to say, this was my expenses that I had to pay. I had to buy supplies, I had to buy equipment, I had to buy transport, I had to, all of these expenses that I had to pay, and this is my profit. Then at the end of the month, of course, some of that profit you're going to need to live. Because you need to pay rent, you need to send kids to school, you need to put in petrol, you need to buy groceries. So you would transfer that then from the one bank account to the other bank account. But when it comes to taxes, you're being taxed as a sole proprietor. But Nicolene is going into tax details, so I don't want to go into it, but please remember this when she gets to that point. Where as soon as you've got a company, you need to be taxed in the company's records, company's being taxed, then the company pays you a salary. Now for the salary, you need to deduct monthly pay as you earn, so it's another compliance issue. Now you've got a tax return in the company, you've got a pay as you earn submission monthly in the company, the money comes to you, end of the year you've got an RB5 and an ENP 501 problem. Where you've got a sole proprietor, all of it sitting there. But please guys, I mean, it really depends on the size and where you're starting out. So if you've already got a team of 10 people, sole proprietor is not the right route for you. Because now you've got people, you have to pay their salaries, you have to pay as you earn for them, you have to do RP5s for them, then you're going to need a corporate space. You're going to definitely need a corporate entity. So it really depends where you are and where you're going with this business. Also, I don't know if there's anyone that we spoke about today that their creative space at this point is a side hustle. Nothing wrong with it. Most people start with a side hustle until it can sustain them, and then they let go of the corporate job or the permanent job or the job that they actually didn't love and didn't want to do. So if you're in that space, you can also still do that as a sole proprietor until the stage that you go over full time. Yes. Definitely. Freelancing I would definitely be doing as a sole proprietor. I think it's just much more easier from a compliance point of view to manage that. What makes it a business? We've spoken about this. If you're a sole proprietor, even though you're in creative space, it is still a business. I want to touch on something you there at the bottom. I said you're not just a freelancer or just a singer, you're a business owner in the creative economy. So you're a business owner, you're a business professional. And I think to just, I want to share it on this point, you have to get paid creating something of value. Somebody is buying what you're creating, either what you're making and filming or singing or painting or designing. Somebody wants it. It's got value because somebody wants it and you've got it. So you've got costs to cover and you want to grow and you want to leave a legacy. That is all qualities of a business. So what you do is a business. And in my family, I've got some very creative people. And I've got an aunt that was a florist her entire life. business doesn't have family or friends. You as an individual have family or friends. Your business side doesn't have family or friends. So there's value to what you do. Don't undervalue your service. Don't give it away for free. It's got a value. So you can do a family discount if you want to, but don't give away your work for free. Yes.
Since you just said that, how do you then distinguish between passion, true passion, doing something out of true passion, and also the intention of, like I said, problem solving? Yeah, how do you separate that when it comes in line with business and, separating from family and friends? And then how do you distinguish that I'm doing this out of love and passion, or doing this out of making money or profit, or to solve problems?
If your passion is also the thing that puts food on the table every month, you're not doing it out of passion. It is a passion, and you've turned your passion into business, and you're in a very privileged situation because of that. Because a lot of people can't turn their passion into business. They just don't have the skills to do it. So if you're in a position where you can turn your passion into business, but if you rely on that passion to put food on the table, it's a business. And yes, hobbies. Yeah, so hobbies is right. I mean, I've known who here photography. I feel sorry for you guys, because all of a sudden, every single person that owns a phone or a camera is now a weekend photographer, and then they advertise their services for R1,000, and then at the end of the wedding, there's no one clear photo. And I'm like, yeah, but why did you not get a professional person to come and take the photo? No, with my cousins take photos over the weekend. We all got our iPhone, we all take photos over the weekend. It doesn't make us a photographer. That's a hobby. So, but there's value to what you offer, because that bride wants that photo in the foyer for the rest of her life. So she's going to pay for the professional to do it. Interesting, while we're talking about photography, when you cost your services, people are going to say to you, it's crazy, I can't pay this for photos. You're there the whole day. And then people say, well, you were there one day, I'm not paying you 15,000 rand for a day. You go back and you sit behind a computer and edit photos for 2 or 3 weeks. The service you're offering them is not a day service. It is a 2 or 3 week service. That you have to calculate with your cost. So if you need 20,000 rand a month to survive, and with editing time, you can only do one wedding a month, you have to charge 20,000 rand a wedding. Otherwise, you're not going to survive. As soon as you start charging 10,000 rand for a wedding, and you spend a month on it, now you've got 10,000 rand, you can't pay the bills. That's when I spoke about income and expenses. Know what your income is, know what your time is that you're investing in it, so that you can make a price. Yes?
Very interesting point that you raised. So now, with regards to technology and AI also becoming another means where we can generate and create much more quicker, how do we then also establish a more, pertaining to your question, what you just said, how does technology also help us in terms of financial literacy and understanding to distinguish between the two? Because now AI can help us also do the bookkeeping, accounting, and all that. I don't know if you understand my
No, I
point.
understand exactly what you're saying, but I want to tie it back to the photography question that I've used. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, a photographer spent 2 weeks on editing photos. Now we've got software and amazing stuff, so you only spend a week on it. So now you've got space for 2 weddings a month. So you can make your weddings a little bit cheaper. Remember, you had to charge 20,000 rand a wedding because you could only afford to do one a month. You only had time for one. Now you have time for 2. Now don't be greedy and say you want to make 40,000 rand a month, because you're going to outprice yourself. But also be smart, because you want to save a bit for the future. So don't half the price. Don't say it's now 10,000, make it 15,000 a wedding. Now you've got 30,000. Absolutely. That's now part of your cost. Remember when we said cost? Guys, cost, maybe I think I'm going to touch on this now. So So this is what when we talk about income for creatives. You've got commissions, you've got print sales, you've got licensing, you've got teaching. How many people here teach? You must think about this carefully. Nicolene and I teach. Sometimes in the creative space, you help people get a skill, and that's teaching. That should be a revenue skill. So maybe things in the industry is going tough. Maybe you must start taking 1 or 2 juniors with you. So I'm going to teach you how to do this job, but I'm charging you 2,000 rand a month, 3,000 rand a month, 4,000 rand a month. Okay. Now you're going to get that. I promise you're going to get it.
In my company, so what I do, because I work between the Western Cape and Gauteng, what I do, I capacitate young people in the township. I mean, I know most of them. They have the skill, right? But they don't have the resources. So they end up using my resources. I'm the one who teaches them how to use the resources. I'm the one who gives more. I give them jobs as freelancers. So I hire them as freelancers in my company because I can take them in full time. So I don't know how to draw the line into how can I charge someone that I know that we haven't had a gig for like maybe 2 weeks or a month or 3. Yeah.
Okay, what I'm going to say to you is I love the philanthropy there. I love the developing of our youth. It's a very, very big passion for me as well. So I love that you're going out and you say these guys have the skills, they might have the talent, but they don't have the opportunities. So they also might not have the bucks. Why don't you say, I'm going to help you. You're going to come, I'm going to teach you everything I know. And when you go on gigs, I'm going to help you. You can use my equipment, but they're going to pay you something. Not once off out of their pocket, from their earnings. So they're repaying you rent for the equipment. And you can say to them, guys, once you get back, you don't have to pay me up front, because that's what most people do. You rent equipment, you have to buy up front. You're going to say, I know you, you're a student of mine, but for every gig that you use my equipment, I'm charging you per hour or a percentage of their fee. So it's also going to teach them, you're not going to be always there to give them equipment. So they need to know that it's come at a cost. Either I'm renting it from somebody or I have to go and buy it from somebody. So, but it's a stream of income that you guys can think about and consider. So musicians, we look at gigs, royalties, session work, teaching, grants, graphic designers, logo design, web design, retainers, content creation. So business model basic, we spoke about this. So you can do big jobs a month, a big campaign, like the lady that said that they've done the branding and the campaign for a year. You can do a lot of small jobs. You can sell your work online, and you can have retainers or teaching. Retainers is a very good source of income, especially for the guys in graphic design. If you can just have one client that pay you a monthly retainer and you do all their ad work, you do all their banners, and you do their website design, why am I saying it's good work? It's a secure income. So if other stuff goes up and down, you know at least you have this. Look guys, some months you're going to chew bricks because you're going to have other work that came in, and then the retainer guy's going to pitch up and say, I pay you every month, I need a new web page now. Then you have to perform. So it is going to be tough, but it is a means of sustainable income. Yes.
It's very difficult to get those retainers, and when you get the retainer, I feel like it's difficult to manage the work that the client expects to get from the agency. You know, so you end up having to, you are doing so much work. You do work that's worth 500K, but you're only getting 50,000.
Absolutely, and that is where the part comes in, that you need to engage and contract it. So yes, I've got a monthly retainer. What is the type of work I can do for you is X, Y, and Z under the container. And for any artistry, I'm just calling it artistry because graphic design, photography, whatever is sitting in this room, I would limit the retainer to hours. So this is your retainer. I can do X, Y, and Z for you, but only a certain amount of hours a month. Yes.
So, the issue that I think a lot of us in the creative sector, whether it's photography or event coordination, marketing, a music publishing company or a label, is that the irregularities of income are, it's just a flatline consistency. There's no way you can avoid it unless you have some kind of tender with government to do their live, whatever, whatever, whatever. Now, my question is, 1 month may be amazing. It could be 1 gig, as you were saying, but there can be 2 months without anything, and maybe you're sustained by that one income. How does the bank, if they recognize you as a sole proprietor and you're registered as a sole proprietor, that extra account that you're talking about, how do they make provisions for that? Because we end up our accounts are on deficit when there's no money. It's like there's a shortage of understanding or kind of empathy with this freelancing space that we're in that we really just cannot control. So we can get the tools from you to understand, but then we're still hit with a brick with the banks. Our bank management is whack. And then obviously, as you know, with freelance companies, you can't get assets. It's difficult to ascertain property or any kind of asset. So what would your suggestion be, or how do we mitigate that?
So the one thing that I would definitely suggest, and I know it's not easy, and it's also even when you get a salary job, not easy, but you need to go and work out a budget. And now I'm first talking about personal budgets, right? What is your household budget? So you needing your household budget 15,000 rand a month. Let's just use 15,000 rand. Again, I was talking earlier on about the price of Omo, so I don't know if 15,000 rand is enough anymore, but let's say you need 15,000 rand. Now you've got a great month. You did 2 great gigs and you're getting 60,000 rand. Do not take the 60,000 rand into your personal bank account. Your budget is 15,000 rand. Only take what you need and leave the rest. Because for the next month or 2, you're not going to have 2 big gigs. And then every month you need to go and take a salary from your business account. If nothing came in, so you need to provide and plan ahead for the rough months and for the tough months. The thing is with the banks, if you look at financing loans, even if you had a company, so that rule is not different. If you were a sole proprietor or you had a company, they're going to want to see the money in the bank. If you apply for financing and maybe there isn't, but maybe you've got some signed contracts, that can definitely support you. The problem that I found in this amazing country which we live in, which I love dearly, but is I find a lot of the financial institutions, and I don't have the answer for that, there's somebody sitting with a tick box approach. So the list says, must have 50,000 in the bank. 50,000, tick. Must have the ID, check. It's and as soon as so maybe you don't have 50,000 in the bank. Maybe you've got 40,000 in the bank, but you've got a committed signed contract that's coming through in a month with 150,000 rand. But the person that's sitting in the bank, it's not on my checklist, so I can't accept it. Where you spoke to a rational person, and that's then where private funding comes in, like the private equity groups. The problem with them is sometimes it's costly. The interest on those fundings can be quite high. So it might be easier in certain aspects, but the cost linked to it is just quite high. So I think as a country, that's something that we have to, it's tricky. This is the thing, they don't see the value, but I always say, let's just take for 2 months all the creativity out of our country. There's going to be no show, there's going to be no photos, no online posting, because that's all creativity, eh? Honestly, how quickly everyone's going to pay for it. No content to watch, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's do that, and let's push them to the edge.
So our wanted to add that when I started, I couldn't even get a loan for equipment or a cell phone contract. It didn't even matter that I had the funds personally, but because the business didn't have that financial record, I couldn't get anything, you know,
Yeah.
and I had to fund it myself. And then after 2 years, the bank reached out to me wanting to give me money. Even this year, they are harassing me, and I'm like, I learned to survive without
Yeah.
without your money.
Money.
So it is quite difficult.
Am I? Okay. So I always say, it's so interesting. I hear exactly what you're saying. The bank is now currently, a lot of the banks, they send you these SMSs and they call you and there's this other private loan company, I don't know if you all also get messages from them. And then they phone, they say, Leona, you've qualified for 500,000 Rand credit. And I'm like, whoa, what do I need to send you? I'm taking it. And then they're very excited and they say, but I can't afford to buy it back. And then they say, no, you have to. I said, no, I can't afford to buy it back. Because we're in a situation now where it's very easy for funds to go out now, but when you look at that situation, it's not always easy to repay. So this is not my presentation today, but I must add it in now that we're talking about it. Watch out for financing. Do not get yourself in trouble. Now you know.
With the loan that they give you, right? They give you the money, and then for all the income that you're getting every month, whatever comes in, they take 10% of that income. So if I get paid on a weekly, if money touches my bank account, they take that 10%. So I learned very quickly this year when they were calling me, like, I'm good.
Yeah. If you can avoid financing, do. It's not easy. I mean, sometimes we need it, but
From my side, I've always avoided loans because I didn't understand like how it works. But also it had a toll on my business because instead of my business taking off or having more profit between a space of 1 or 3 years, it has taken me 7 years
yeah.
to buy the right equipment that I need to do the work. I have the skills, I have everything, but it took me a long time. Yeah, to save, to just make sure that you have the enough resources to make sure that the business does what it needs to do. Yeah.
The upside on this is somebody might have gone and done all the financing and got to a position in 2 or 3 years where your business is. 1 or 2 months something happened and they can't pay back that financing. And then you've got reposition. Then that person is sitting back to where you sat at year 1 after 3 years now, have to go your route because they're not going financing again. It's going to take them 10 years to get there. So your way is the hard way. But today you're standing on your feet. Nobody's looking you in the eyes. You didn't look anyone in the eyes. You sleep very soundly at night.
Okay. I actually am a firm believer in using every resource available to you actually to start a business. So when I started my business, I started in 2017 with only 500 Rand from my own pocket. Now, what I did this year is I'm reopening a business that I had closed last year, and this time I'm using credit. But now I'm doing it with the help of an accountant. So the first thing that she said to me is, get that loan. When you're done, take all that money, transfer it into your business account so that the business is the one that owes the loan, because I took the loan on my personal capacity, and that owes the thing. So that has worked well for me so far from where I am. But if I were to go your route, I would still do it, but with the knowledge that I have and the business that I have, for me, taking the risk of using credit makes more sense because I know how to pay it off quickly, and I also have somebody help me acknowledge that even if I do get paid from the company, I don't owe the loan. The business is the one that owes the thing, and I can put whatever interest that I want to on top of that.
So absolutely, and it also depends on the risk appetite. So it also depends on every person's risk appetite. I don't even have a credit card because I'm so scared something happens I can't pay this. I'm a financial person. Depends on the risk appetite. Just on this note, sorry, some free business advice here. Make sure that loan that you transferred from your name to the business name, make sure it went through the financial institution, so the bank. You had to do a session of the loan. Because otherwise at the bank side, so in your mind you think you've done it, but on the bank's records, it's still sitting in your name. So if something goes wrong, they're still going to come after you. So go and check with the bank. You had to sign a document called the cession of the loan account. So you ceded the loan from your capacity to the business's capacity. So just make sure. Now, before I get to this discussion that we're having here, I want to throw this in, I'm going to say it. As soon as your business, being your sole proprietor or your company, is at a stage where you can afford a financial accountant, go for it. The advice that she's got, you're not happy with your financial accountant, phone me so we get you a new one. You've got trust issues. Your financial accountant should be able to guide you monthly on these things. I expect a financial accountant, a professional accountant to phone me every month and say, Fiona, this month the sales and the revenue were not great. Your expenses also went up. You're sitting on a profit of this. We're having a cash flow problem. What are you doing about it? Are you cutting costs next month or are you bringing in more money? That is the type of accountant you need. So you must get an accountant, and they are there, and they're not expensive. Because if you don't have to have an accountant of 10,000 rand a month, if your business is still sorting out, that person is going to spend 1 or 2 hours a month on your work. They're going to charge you maybe 1,000, 1,500 rand in the beginning. As you grow and you become Meta's shareholder, you're going to have a fleet of accountants and pay them more money, but let that accountant grow with you. Yeah. So you could use like a Sage, and it's not expensive. I mean, Sage has got good packages. The problem I've got with that, if you yourself is not financial literate, and I mean this with all the love and respect, I can't draw a stick man. You guys can't maybe interpret financial statements. That is our skills. You can capture everything in Sage, and you can press the button and you can show you this is my profit, this is my income. Are you comfortable that you know what it means? If you are, go the Sage route. Do your own bookkeeping. But if one of you were to come to me and say, I want you to be my accountant, I'll be like, okay, I'll quickly capture your books. This is how many transactions, I'm going to spend an hour on it. But the more important thing for you is I'm going to say to you, you're running out of cash. Something's like, that is what I want to pay an accountant for. Not to capture the books, because that Sage can do. So you more need the advice. So even, I wouldn't even go as Sage. If I'm freelancing or just sorting out, I would do Excel. List, this is my sales for the month. This is my expenses for the month. This is my profit for the month. I see you are like, how can you say Excel? Depends on the size of your business. If you've got
I did start there. I used Excel and then I moved on to QuickBooks. Even though I had an accountant, so I was paying an accountant and I was paying for QuickBooks subscription. So I'm losing my train of thought. Yeah, I did also try Sage, and I couldn't use Sage. I couldn't use Sage, so I preferred QuickBooks. I'm not getting that advice from my accountants. So they basically doing what QuickBooks was doing for me, but then on a monthly, I don't know what's happening. And the issue is that I'm financing the business. So when there is no money from the agency, I would just move money from my personal account and then I would give it to the business. And all they would ask me is, where is this money coming from? And they will just write director's loan, director's loan.
So our problem is, you're not having an accountant. She calls herself him or her or whatever, calls herself an accountant. Because that's a bookkeeper. Somebody that puts your info in QuickBooks or Sage or whatever and just prints you a page, it's a bookkeeper. And they're naughty. So they call themselves accountants, it's not an accountant. And she can do accountant work, but maybe you're not screaming loud enough. I'm honest, you know. And Nicolene and I, we have this discussion with our members, because remember, Siba, we've got 15,000 accountants on our books. And when we speak to them, we say to them, your clients don't want an income statement and a balance sheet, because they can get it from Sage, they can get it from QuickBooks. They want advice. They want you to interpret the information to them and then tell them, what does this mean? And that is the problem. So I don't want to say it because now maybe your client's watching this recording, or your bookkeeper, but go and speak to them about your expectations, because your expectations is not being met. So, I mean, if I've got a client, like I said, I would say to them, cash is running out. Revenue was down this month, 20% from last month. Why? What's happening in the coming month? I've got 9 new gigs, Leona. Then Leona's going to be like, that's a problem. No spending this month. Then you're going to say to me, I need to buy a camera. Then I'm going to say to you, let's work out a budget. You can't buy a camera now. You can only buy a camera in the next 4 months. That is an accountant. That is somebody that's helping you grow your business. That is a business advisor. Accountants, you can be your own accountant, because you can all work Sage. I promise you, they've got online courses. You will pick it up like this. You can all work. QuickBooks is quite easy as well. So,
Just wanted to add exactly that. I think as a business person, you need to be an all-rounder to a certain extent. I mean, you need to understand some basic IT, technology, some legal stuff that you need to understand, including record keeping, as you've got there. Because an accountant is not going to help you with your record keeping. So you need to track your expenses. You need to have some large understanding of what it means for your business, other than your craft. I think your craft is important as a business, but you have to know what's happening in your business. You need to know your bank account. You need to know your bank statement. You need to know SARS, what's happening at SARS. You need to know CIPC. So to me, it's as much as you can outsource that to an accountant, I think there's a level of understanding that as a business person you need to have. But yes, not entirely in depth. You can outsource some of things when it gets a bit complicated. But I think there has to be some basic
you need to know what
information.
is your revenue, what is your expenses, what is sitting in your bank, what is your budget, what do you need. Absolutely. I think what I want to share a story now. I spoke to somebody the other day, and I said to her, how do you manage your clients? Because she's a very good practitioner. She's got a lot of clients. She says to me, and there are 5 or 6 people in their team. For each of their clients, they've got a WhatsApp group. And her clients are very practical people. So she's got plumbers, electricians. So she says they always forget to bring the slips and stuff. Then it lies under the car seat. She's got them in a habit now. When they buy stuff, they take a photo and they send it immediately on the WhatsApp group. When they invoice a client and they send the invoice to the client, they WhatsApp it to her as well. And this is our, so I mean, even if you don't have an accountant, WhatsApp it to yourself. Every time you're in a shop and you buy something for your business, take a picture, WhatsApp it to you. Because when you go at the end of the week or end of the month, or some naughty people at the end of 6 months, you want to go try and capture your expenses. You're forgetting about the 5 or 10 or 15 things that you might be paid with cash. And then you're not tracking your expenses, you don't know what your profit is. So that is just touching on record keeping. How to keep those records. Upload it on a Google Drive. Come on, you guys all know about Google Drives. You know much better than accountants about how to store stuff and how computers work and all of those things. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been keeping a lot in. Not to revert, but I wanted to touch on what we were speaking about, the loans and everything else. Yes, I do have an accountant, but then she does most of my filing, annual returns, and tax compliance. But then I went ahead and registered myself also as a representative for either my CIPC, and my SARS returns. She does give me good advice when it comes to the financial side of things and literacy, but then she's not proactive because she's in her senior year. She's quite old. So I always have to go back to her and say, hey, what's next now? I need you to compile me my annual. And then I wanted to find out from you, what she also advised me is I need to find an understanding or to distinguish the difference between scaling or growing the business through a loan or scaling and growing the business through an investment. So I wanted you to maybe give me which is better there, and then and then I'll take it from there after your answer.
So scaling and growing your business through a loan versus an investment. I can say it's quite hectic. It depends obviously on your business. Okay. The thing is, if you do a loan, you're going to have to get the financing. So we've spoken about the problems with the banks, we've spoken about the problems with private equity, so it might be difficult to get that loan. The cost of loan might depend where you get it from. Investment seems attractive, okay? But a lot of the time what comes with investment is you're giving up a portion of ownership. Somebody's going to invest in your business, they're going to want something in return for it, which is shares in your business. 10 to 1. I'm not saying always, but majority of the time. If they invest in your business and they don't want shares, they just want their money back, then it's not an investment, then it's a loan. So that's the difference between investment and loan. So an investment, and if somebody wants to give you 500,000 rand to put in your business, and they want 50% of your business, it's going to look very attractive, okay? They see something that either you're not seeing or you're undervaluing. Because why are they willing to put 500,000 in your business and they want 50%? Because they can see this 500,000 is going to worth 5 million rand in 10 years. They're going to sell their 50%, and you're going to get stuck with somebody as a shareholder with you, making decisions in your business, your ideas, your work, your plan with you. So I'm not saying investment is not an option, but just know who you're getting in bed with, because it can really give you long-term problems. You can lose control of your creativity, your product. Depends on the percentage. I mean, maybe they're giving you 50,000 rand, they say I want 10%. But now they're a shareholder, they've got access to all your records. They're going to want, at the end of the year, if we made 100,000 rand profit, they want their 10,000 rand. So that for me is the difference between an investment. It's got different costs, it's got different benefits, it's got different cons. So if maybe I'm not you guys, if I was a creative person, because creativity for me is something that's part of your soul. It's who you are. It's very hard to separate it from a business. Accountants are easy. We do books, but at home I go home at night and I'm a fun person. Okay? Creative people are always fun people. It's part of your nature. It's part of who you are. So as soon as somebody else is investing in your business, but this is a personal view, please, my personal view, I feel like I'm giving away a little bit of my soul to this person. You know, I've just sold a piece of my soul. This is what keeps me alive and what I've got a passion for. So then you're turning your creative business into a corporate business. Nothing wrong with it. A lot of people have done it. Nothing wrong with it. But you must know, now you're playing the corporate world. So you're not going to pitch up at a meeting at Sandton at some big corporate with your pink hair. Because the guys in the boardroom don't like pink hair. I'm honest. So I'm an accountant. A couple of years ago, I dyed blue streaks in my hair. And I was actually asked by clients that they don't like it because they can't take me serious. So this is now, it's getting involved into your personal life, into your soul and what you're doing. So, but it's nothing wrong. Now, who spoke about passion? Then it's no, there's no passion, right? It's bucks. Now we're talking bucks, which is not wrong. We all want the nice house and the nice car and the holiday. Yes.